Okay. What's going on, Darnell? What's up, family? Just waiting for Kev to hop on and we're going to get this live started. All right, cool, man. Avni, how you doing? Welcome. About to get Kev on here, get the live started. We're going to be going over a few topics I think you guys will be interested in. So, should be fun. Let's see. How's everybody's weekend? What'd you guys do? Should be a few more seconds. That'll be good to go. Take a look at a few things. We're going to be talking about cancel culture, racial discrimination. It's a lot of that going on right now, and everybody's it's a bit sensitive these days when it comes to police brutality and just systematic racism. So I mean, it's a cool topic that we're going to touch on. Hopefully, you guys will like our perspective on it. Should be cool. Let's see. Cool. Kev is in the building. Let's see. Hey, Kev,
Hey,
what's going on? Looking real sharp right now, man. Nice and dapper.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I try, got out of the first day of English 102 class and
Okay.
had to come right, you know what I'm saying?
Professor Anglad, you know how it is, man. You got to come correct. I know how you do it. You're shining over there, man.
Sorry, but I try. Again, sorry for my lateness. A student was asking me some questions about the course and some homework, so I had to get that done.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely understand on that one. Yep, that's important.
how, how things with you on your end? What's going on?
Everything's great, man. Birthday was on Friday, so had some fun, hung out with family, stuff like that. So it was cool, man, for sure.
Excellent. That's excellent, man. That's awesome. Awesome. So what's going on, bro? I know we're gonna talk about this topic of cancel culture and racial discrimination. It's just interesting because I actually just got out of my English 102 course and we were reading a short story that talked about racial discrimination and violence in the Jim Crow South in the 1930s, and the students were really into it. I don't know if it's because
Mm,
of the that's currently going on today, but they were actually really into it and in tuned. And it just kind of reinforced the matter of urgency and importance with this topic because
right.
it seems as if even people who normally would kind of just like shun it or throw it under under the bus, they all seem to be totally like about it and they want to
Yeah.
conversation about it. So if you don't mind, I guess we can get started first with the whole idea of cancel culture. Um,
Mm.
we talk about cancel culture a lot. Um, what are your thoughts about cancel culture? I know we talked about this in the podcast, so for those that are wondering, you can go listen to it on episode 30, which is Nobody's Perfect. Mark and I tackled this idea of cancel culture, and on a little bit on episode 31, Get Out. But what is your current perspective on cancel culture and today's climate of society, whether it be on the internet? or offline? Like, how does cancel culture affect us, and is it right?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, it's almost like a mob mentality, You know what I mean? Like it's like whose turn is it next for us to set them on fire, But it's tough. I mean, I believe in holding people accountable for stuff, but I think it's a bit too aggressive, man. I don't think someone's life should be ruined for, something that they may have said or done. Because I mean, we all come out of character sometimes if we're angry or sad or upset. And I feel like they're crucifying people for, you know, just a small moment. You know what I mean? I feel like we have to hold people accountable, but I don't think it should ruin someone's life. Yeah, I
Now,
don't think it should. I mean, racism is a bit different. Of course, we would say, we want them fired because if you're in a place of power and you're racist, you're affecting people's lives. But I feel like in other instances we're a bit too harsh. I get the racism. I get if you're crucifying someone that is a predator of some type. But for the smaller things, I don't think it's right.
yeah,
What do you
no,
think
I'm with
about
you.
that? Yeah,
I can only go off of honestly, I don't think I would have a thought on it if I
yeah.
hadn't experienced it myself.
Mm,
But I can only go off of like my personal experiences. Like, we talked about in episode 31, Get Out, where I was teaching at this private school, and they ran me out of town because I showed them a video. I showed the students a video that connected to the idea of colorism, and they thought that I was doing too much. Like they thought, like, whoa, like we have very conservative beliefs here, sir. What are you doing showing our daughters the intricacies of like urban education and what happens within an urban community or urban community based school where like kids are
right.
dealing with this pregnancy and all this other stuff and blah blah blah. And it's just like, oh wow, well, I didn't know. Like, all right, school have a conversation because we didn't um there was no conversation that was had
Right.
prior to let me know what was acceptable and was not acceptable. Also, too, you pegged me as the social justice educator. So what do you
Right.
think I'm going to bring in? Cut ties? Like, no, I'm going to really bring social justice. Obviously, I'm not going to make it something that's totally inaccessible and totally way beyond children's heads at that age, and as well as totally inappropriate. But if it's something that deals with the matters of racism, prejudice, or colorism, within the fine lines of appropriateness for a girl that's 13, 12, 14 in seventh grade, eighth grade, yeah, I'm going to show that to them because they need to
Exactly.
know.
Yeah.
um and I really truly learned the power of cancel culture then, because the parents didn't even allow me to explain myself. I matter of fact, I wrote a
Right.
whole letter. I don't even think I told you this on the podcast. I wrote a whole letter actually explaining the reason behind it. And I think Danielle at the time, when she was with me, she helped me like put together the words that would allow me to kind of like uh, um, 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 convey, my thoughts and reasoning behind the playing of the video, and as well as like how that correlates to colorism as a whole, and the spectrum of how that affects young girls of color within our society. And the thing that's so crazy about it too is that within both classes there were like two or three black girls in the class. So guess what, this is for them. Maybe
Right.
the next story we read will be for you guys, but
Right.
they're always reading your stories. Why can't you just hop along the train and read our stories for once? And
Yeah.
it's, you know what I'm saying? But um I didn't get a chance to speak for myself, to be an advocate for myself. I was kicked out. I was suspended, and then on top of that, to add salt to the wound and to add fire into the pit, I was being investigated by the police, to see if I had caused any sexual harm or things like that to the children, which I thought was absolutely trifling and disgusting. It's like, now we're not only getting me out of here because you don't believe with my beliefs as a teacher, as an educator, whatever, whatnot. Now you're trying to assassinate my character because
Right.
of a black man, and you're trying to shun me and destroy me to the point where I no longer get a chance to work again.
Mm,
So I think it's right. I mean, we see what happened to the brother Nick Cannon because of his anti-Semitic comments. And I'm not speaking up for him as if it was right. I'm not saying that, but I feel as if we aren't given a chance for reformation. There's no change or no ability to show some kind of rehabilitative thought process and work behind you making mistakes. It's tough, brother. It's really tough.
Yeah, it seems like that. I mean, from what I've, seen on the internet and stuff like that, it's just like
Yeah.
you're accused and we don't want to hear anything. You're gone. It's like there's no room for explanation, like you said. There's no room for, that person's side of the story. It's like you're just guilty by accusation. And it's like they take their own clues and put them together and create their own story. And it almost becomes as if cancel culture is another form of entertainment. It's just like, who are we gonna crucify next? It's like in the Roman times where they would take a person and just have a tiger or some crazy animal just destroy them in front of everyone, and everyone would watch and cheer. It's almost like a public, tar and feathering. You know what I'm saying? So it's uh
Mhm.
it's interesting, man. It's like making it. Let's make an example of him to keep everyone else in line.
Yeah,
So and of course, a brother is the perfect target. He's the
no, it's a
perfect
fact.
yeah, because there's no consequences when you can destroy a brother's character. You know what I mean? There's
That's
no
true.
consequences because we come from nothing. So it's like it's nothing to them to just destroy us, but for someone that actually is born with notoriety, they won't be touched by things like that.
True. Yeah, very, very true. It's just it's a very, very it's complicated. It's interesting because I think we talked about this on the podcast even as well. I'm sure me leaving that school, looking back at everything, I feel so good about myself, and I feel liberated in a way, and I feel comfortable with where I'm at because I know at this point in time you wish you had me around.
Right,
I know at this point in time you wish that Professor Anglad was there to help guide you through this tough, and as well as how do we deal with systemic oppressions of the world in
right,
itself, and how do we navigate that and determine and as well as find a place of equity together, even if it's not possible, at least start to explore the idea of equity, what it looks like, and to understand how diversity is important and how we can go about it won't be seamless, but how we can go about incorporating and blending in a space of existence where we can at least start these conversations where we could coexist and live together.
right.
Um, but I think it's something that is tough because I feel as if like we're not given that chance, man. As black men, as black women in this country, we are not given that chance to show change and to reform. And it really sucks because now with the internet ablaze, man, the internet just adds gasoline to the fire and makes
Oh
things
yeah.
10 times worse. So it's tough, bro. It's really tough. It's really
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's so true. It's tough, man. It's like when you don't have the power, yeah. I mean, we definitely are always at risk of something like this because it's always going to be your word against ours, and they can formulate whatever depiction they want.
do you feel as do you feel the tide shifting as a black man though? Do you feel that now, in this tough racial climate we live in, we're able to more so express ourselves, or more so not be fueled? As I feel as if like now as a teacher, and as an educator, as a professor, I can actually say some of these things and not feel a type of way now. Like, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't insult them. Oh my, oh, the white people, I don't want them to feel offended. But it's like now it's like I feel as if they're more open and receptive to it. And we can actually have like these conversations a little bit because I feel as if now they're more aware. I mean, it
Right.
takes that, lose Breonna Taylor, unfortunately, rest in peace, and George Floyd to get to that point. But I feel as if now people are more aware, or at least they're trying to be more in tune with it.
Definitely. I feel like they give us the platform to speak our mind a bit more. We have the license to speak on these topics, but when it comes to change, I don't know. It's just like we have the platform now to speak on these things without looking like a political activist, or some type of radicalized uh, man. But at the same time, I don't feel as if I don't see progress. You know what I mean? I just see the ability to speak on the pain.
Hmm.
That's all I really see right now. I mean, it's just like we were saying on one of the podcast episodes regarding, how different corporations are treating, what's going on right now, how they're reacting. They're giving us streets and Martin Luther King crabs and you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, man, this is not changing anything. You will get shot on Black Lives Matter Avenue. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. I don't see a solution. I just see, little kid is crying, so they give him a lollipop, and
Thanks.
that's it, man. That's it. That's all I see, man. It's just it would be different if they really said, okay, we're going to reform the training for officers now. We're going to revamp the entire psychological evaluation for an officer. But they're just like, okay, we're going to give you a street. I'm the mayor. I'm going to paint it with you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man. And because I remember, everybody was so excited. Everybody was so, positively, touched when they said, we're going to put cameras on these officers, right? And now they're
Remember that.
killing you with the camera. It's just like, what the hell is? It's it's a nice try, and I think that was a nice try because I thought that was going to solve everything. It's like, oh, they're on camera. They would never do it on camera. Yep, I'll do it on camera too.
Oh yeah, you're
But you
right.
know what that told me? It told me that racism is not just hating someone, right? Racism can be an unrealistic fear of a person,
Hmm.
and you vilify them in your mind so much, and you just over exaggerate their size and ability so much to the point where you are afraid of anything they do. It's
Hmm.
just like when you see a bumblebee come near you and you start smacking and attacking the bumblebee, but he's just existing. You know what I mean? He's just existing, flying by, but we're so afraid of the bumblebee, so we're like, oh my, we're smacking and running and hiding, and the bumblebee is just like, what the hell is wrong with these people, man?
Right, right. It's true.
All because somebody got stung by another bumblebee. So now every bee is the enemy. So
Mm.
we're the bumblebees, man. Or you could say it like this: it's. I mean, of course, I'm not comparing us to animals or creatures, but I'm just comparing the way that people think towards them. You know what I mean? It's just like I love dogs, and I've met many pit bulls, great dogs, but there's some people that fear pit bulls just because they're pit bulls. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's just like, oh shit, that's a pit bull. Oh no, get that thing away from me.
Hmm.
Just
I
because
can
someone
understand.
was bitten before. It's just like that fear without even experiencing it yourself. You just
Right.
have this bias towards this. It's crazy. And the thing is, how do you unlearn that? Because the media reinforces it. Because
Mm.
there was a brother on the news yesterday. He ran up to a police officer's vehicle and shot them at point blank. Did you hear about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A brother ran up to a police car, and he just opened fire. And they're on life support, in the hospital. And but now that person that already feared black people is like, yep, that's why I don't trust those N words. You know what I'm saying? They're wild. They're this, and it's just like one person. You're going to judge an entire race off the actions of one person. But then when we have a white guy run into a church and open fire on all the patrons of the church, he's taken to McDonald's by the police officers after. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's just like,
yeah,
oh, no problem, little guy. I understand. You know what I mean? Like you took him to, he just opened fire and then killed multiple people, and you take him for a nice snack at McDonald's.
yeah,
It's just like,
yeah. And he isn't vilified or painted as a monster. It's like no, Joey had a lot of problems growing up. He's mentally
yeah,
unstable, you know. So yeah, no, it's true. It's true, man. It's tough, man. It's really tough because like it leads me to wonder when I eventually start a family and I have kids in this world, how anxious I will feel as a parent having to raise them. And then also too, the experiences that I've gone through dealing with police. And we previously talked about this on a prior Wise Guys Live, how I'm going to have to instill like a form of care and a form of self-preservation for them in order to make sure that they're okay. But what
right,
it essentially stems from the fear of having to lose, your offspring and and your children within that manner or form, and that's
right,
unfortunate. But it's crazy because I think one time we had a conversation on episode 12, and we were like, how can we have to teach our kids to, make sure that they keep their hands on 3 and 10 on the steering wheel when they're pulled over, and that they speak respectfully to the cops because like it's part of our existence. It's part of our form of survival.
right,
A white parent might not have to teach their child that. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So
Yep. Hmm.
it's just it's tough, brother. It's tough. It's tough. Oh, shout out to my boy Larry, who's going to be on tomorrow's episode of The Wise Guys. I just see he just logged in. Shout out
Nice.
5TCF
Shout
Larry.
out to Larry for sure. Yeah, man.
Yes,
It's
sir. Also, Mark, I was
mhm.
I talked to you about the software, but he actually wants my boy Larry. He actually wants some consulting from you about business and how to approach his business. But I'll talk to you about that off here.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's awesome, man. For sure. We'll talk about that definitely. That's awesome.
But yeah, man. I don't know, bro. It's tough. It's tough. I wonder though if it's the same amount of I wonder if it's the same amount of how do I say this to you? I wonder if it's the same amount of fear and the same amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Paranoia that we have as black men that black women also are subjugated to and have to deal with as well. What do you think? Do you think black women have to deal with it as well? Or black girls growing up?
Yeah, I mean, of course I don't want to speak for them because I'm sure there's a lot that I don't know. But I think in terms of being over sexualized and also um the way that their pain tolerance is overstated in the medical field. Why does a black woman have to, beg for, the medication to subside the pain during childbirth when a white woman doesn't have to beg for this. It's almost as if they treat us as if we're stronger. We're and that there's a lot of people that would say yes, that's true, but we're treated as if we over exaggerate pain. So there's many sisters that have died in the hospital room while giving birth because they weren't administered the right care. They felt that they were exaggerating the pain. So I feel that we may not go through the
Right.
same things, but on both sides, man, there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot that we go through just in everyday life. Something as simple as medical care, we receive that in a different way than a white person. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things that black women could say that they go through, and
Yeah.
that's things that they go through white people doing it to them, and also brothers, doing it to them. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
What do you think about the NBA right now? As you know, at the end of the first round or at the beginning of the second round, the NBA teams and the players were taking a stand. Um, I forget his name. I know it starts with a J. I don't remember his name right now. It'll come back to me. For the brother who was shot and gunned down in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, actually, and
Yeah,
because of that, the NBA players took a stand, decided to postpone all games for that entire 3 4 day stretch. And the owners were panicking because they wanted to stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. As you see, they have Black Lives Matter emblazoned all over the court, and they have all these words: justice, peace, Black Lives Matter, unity, education reform on the back of their jerseys and whatnot. And they're speaking up for the cause. But then the media, it was so interesting. It was such an interesting dynamic, if you noticed it. The media and the journalists, they were in a frenzy because they were like, yeah, with the just passing of, I think his name was Jacob, I think Jake or something like that, passing of so and so in Milwaukee, the Bucks, the Lakers, they have all start to protest, and they were having meetings about whether they should resume the season or not, and they're like, so yes, the NBA season is in jeopardy. It seemed as if within the subtlety of them actually fighting for education reform, Black Lives Matter, and just being civil in their protests of not playing and wanting to fight for this type of reform, through the NBA. The media and the owners were like nervous, like, oh my gosh, like if they don't play, we lose our money. We lose
Yeah.
our money, we lose deals, and they're trying to make up for all that lost time in which there was no sports and no sporting events from March to June. What are your thoughts on that? I think that's fairly interesting to think about, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's business, though. I mean, when your employees don't want to work, you got to try to incentivize them to work, because if they don't work, you don't make money. But that's the problem, though. We're all a slave to our paycheck. Even an NBA player is a slave to his paycheck. They get paid every 2 weeks, just like us. So not every player can afford to protest. You know what I mean? Because if I asked you, or someone asked me, hey, could you stop all money making activities in support of the protest? We'd be like, oh man, I don't know if I can do that. And it's the same way, man. They've got bills just like us. So I would have loved for them to say, screw it. We're not playing for the entire season. We don't care. We're done. But a lot of people can't afford that. A lot of people can't afford that right there. So
Okay.
but I feel like they jumped back so quick, it was as if it never happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
It never happened. It really
It,
wasn't a long break at all. It was only 3 days, 4 days if that, but three, four
yeah.
days. It wasn't even like a week or 2 weeks.
The owners were like, yeah, they're bluffing. They're bluffing. you know, this this like but what did they get done with that protest? They didn't
Again,
hold on. Yeah, they didn't hold on long enough to get anything.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
just like it wasn't enough, It wasn't enough to actually make a change, in my opinion.
It's interesting, yeah, for sure. It's interesting because it leads me to wonder when I think about the NBA and I think about capitalism and how capitalism is intertwined with performance and consumerism, and as well as our athletes being paraded as commodities in order to appease us and make us feel entertained and enjoy the sports within itself. It leads me to wonder, like, what the hell? To me, Black Lives Matter, all this other stuff. I mean, you could speak up about it, whatever, whatnot. But why don't we just go out there and play? What is the need or the necessity in putting Black Lives Matter or education reform or justice, peace, and equality on our jerseys if we're not going to uphold any of those things? But
Right.
again, it goes back. I think it's interesting because there's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's so subtle, and it's very there's a word yeah, there's so many blurred lines to it. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
for business, it looks good if you put that on the back of his jersey because it shows that, oh, we're in support of these Negroes. These Negroes, they work for us, they play for us. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna be in support of them. But to me, maybe you're saying that your support is more so through dollars and in theory, and not in that
Right.
practicality as they.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I totally agree with that, man. It's all backed by the dollars, but sometimes that's enough to make something happen. Like the people that own these NBA teams are billionaires, you know, so I'm sure they'd be willing to do anything to get these players to play effectively and keep the product going. So
Mhm.
I feel like if they would have boycotted and said, listen, we're not playing until we get a real police reform, the owners might have really started making some phone calls and tried to make something happen. I think so. I really think if they pushed hard enough, the owners would have made some phone calls and really, pushed for something serious to happen. But
They called their bluff, as you said.
yeah, yeah, they called the bluff and nothing got done.
Yeah.
Nothing got
And if
done
I'm not
because they need the money.
money. If I'm not mistaken, I think LeBron was the only one, not the only one, but him and a few other players that are actually good. It's so funny how capitalism and economics plays into this because LeBron and a few other players that are well established, have been entrenched in the NBA for years, were actually willing to go through with everything, shut down the season, and say, you know what, we're done here, in order to ensure that we get some reform and some change over the police violence and the brutality that's been happening as of late. But then at the same time, you got these younger players looking at LeBron like, who do you think you are? Like, yo, I'm struggling out here too. Gee, I need to get my
Yeah,
paycheck, yo. We can afford to shut down the season because I got a, I got a high luxurious, 8 grand, 10 grand rent, or mortgage that I got to upkeep, and I can't
right,
afford to not play. I need to make my money.
right.
It's interesting. But
And
then it's
he,
like, would LeBron be along the lines of those young players had this happened 15 years ago when he was only in his second or third year in the league? Had he not been thinking about it upon this matter, you know what I'm saying? Because
right.
he's so well established, he's so financially comfortable. Who knows, like, what his position would have been then. And I'm not saying that to question, who he is, to question his heart and where his heart lies, but it interests me because I'm wondering, how does that play out if he's a younger person? What's his perspective like? It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, LeBron signed $100 million Nike contract, out of high school. So, he was good, but speaking for the lower tier player, the second or third string bench player, they can't afford that, man. And if
Yeah.
LeBron was really serious, maybe he says, to all the other supermax players, let's all get together and create a fund so we can support these players during this protest. We have the resources, we have the capital. Let's all come together. But I don't know many people willing to give up millions, man. Just give away millions just for the cause. So yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and the owners knew that. It's like you guys can't sustain. You guys can't sustain.
Yeah.
This will
It's
be
so
over
crazy how
soon.
the owners, there's such a division. There's such a division between the players union. There's such a division between the owners, and as well as the players themselves. There's such a division. It's like, look, we know you want justice, equality, and all this other stuff. We know that we don't want to appear to be racist, so we're going to support this cause in theory and put these things on the back of your jerseys. But at the same time, we know that in order to keep capitalism going and for you to be paid outright, you need to do this. You need to play. So this is all cute, happy little 3, 4 days and stuff, happy little stuff on the back of your jerseys. But at the end of the day, we need to pay our bills and you need to pay yours. So get back out there, nigga. Do it. Put that ball
Pretty
in the hoop.
much. Pretty much. That's what they're saying. And I mean, they know they have power over them. It's like whenever you're signing the check, you have power over that person. You have power over whether they
Yeah.
eat or not. So it's a tough position to be in because, like we said, if it was you or I and somebody asked us to not do any money making activities in support of the cause, that would be a tough thing to do. That'd be a tough one to do, man. So it makes sense.
Definitely. Definitely, bro. Um, I wanted to transition now towards the latter heart of last week's episode where we talked about a lot of things, but we also talked about going about figuring out how we can possibly implement or bring about a change in this climate. So as you said, you feel as if nothing's going to change. I actually feel the same way. I feel as if there's not going to be any changes no time soon, and I
Yeah,
feel as if like cycles and a lot of things are repetitive because they are a lot of things are subjected to just having to go through the moment. Like, look, it's like, oh man, the riots and the protests are happening. I cannot avoid this, even if I'm not fully educated or fully aware or privy to the topic. I need to talk about it because everyone's talking about it. So why not me?
right.
You know what I'm saying? Um, do you feel moving forward? Do you feel that we can actually find some form of equity and justice um, for Black folks both within the society and within the workplace? Matter of fact, let me rephrase that question because I think it got a little lost in there. Do you think that there will be some form of sustainment in terms of equity and equality for Black folks within the workplace and as well as out in society when they are attempting to just exist and be themselves? Do you feel as if there will be a form of sustainment and support for their well-being mentally and physically, socially?
I think that's a tough one. I mean, I think in the next 1 or 2 generations, yes, because I feel like a lot more people are becoming aware of what's going, seeing the just the discrimination and stuff like that. So I feel like a lot of white people are actually, they're taking a stand. They're seeing what's going on. So I think in the next 1 or 2 generations, that racism will kind of
Mm-hmm.
be extinguished to a certain degree. But it's really hard to say. I mean, like social media and all these things have really allowed people to see what's really going on and to see that it's really not fair in terms of, like you said, equity. So
Right.
I feel like I think it's possible. I think it's possible for it to happen, but it'll take some time. It'll take some
Yeah.
time for sure. What do you think about that?
I think it'll take some time too.
Yeah,
It's sad to say, but I feel as if it's gonna have to get much, much worse before it gets better. Unfortunately,
yeah.
it's hard to say, but I really, really feel. I mean, I do know. I think I've talked to you about this before. I do know some instances of where I do know of some instances where people are sharing their stories in the workplace, like, "Oh, this happened to me," or like, I like. It's almost as if like minorities, people of color, we feel more comfortable now to share stories that we normally would hold on to and that are taboo because this is such a climate right now where it's so sensitive, but it's acceptable to speak of your plight and it's acceptable to actually explain and to go into depth and detail as to what you've been through. Think about it, bro. Remember, you know about my story in regards to the private school and all this other stuff, right? It happened last September, almost a year ago. Actually, I'm actually going to even publish a piece on it. I think next Monday, I'm going to
Hmm.
publish a piece. But you think about the fact that it happened to me a year ago. This was prior to all this going on. So the world was running as it was. I had just, gone on social media and, proclaimed how excellent it was for me to have such a jewel of an opportunity, bestowed upon my feet and that, it was going to help me, better in my life and kind of just better my trajectory in terms of my career and all this other stuff. Right. And then next thing you know, 2 weeks later, I get fired. Right. That to me was shameful. You don't go about on social media and talk about that in front of thousands or hundreds or whatever the case may be of followers because now you look like a total loser, or that's the perception of a black man or a man with who has been handed or has been bestowed such a illustrious opportunity. You're not going to go about and think about it or try to harbor on those feelings personally online because you don't want people to say, "Wow, man, Kev really had this shot and he blew it." And it's like I don't want to hear anything about race. What did he do? Like he must have really fucked up in order for him to be in that bad position. I don't want that story out there to have a false or negative narrative about myself. But now what I'm realizing in the current climate that we live in today, I can actually put that story out and it's so timely and it's so poignant to the point it's like people might actually want to listen because maybe other people have been going through it too, but all they
Right,
wanted was to actually emanate that and to actually be brave enough to share the story. Now they want to go ahead and digest it, process it, be inspired by it, and share their stories as well. But a year ago, bro, I don't think this would have been right for me to put the story out. But now a year
right.
later, look at it, it's like it's so timely. If that makes sense.
Exactly. It's true. It's true. It definitely. I mean, it's definitely a time where a lot of black people are telling their story, man. Before, yeah, it would have people would have questioned you or what exactly happened, but now people are starting to actually believe the stories of discrimination. It's no longer like a possible lie or a possible, you know what I'm saying, or let's question what he did. It's a lot more belief when it comes to seeing what's going on in the workplace and seeing what's happening, discriminatory wise. So it's true.
For sure, for sure. Before we part, I just wanted to know, in a following episode, we talk about it's actually coming up. It's actually one of my favorite episodes this season. I think it's episode 30. There's a couple episodes actually, but I think it's actually episode 35. Break the Chains, Becoming Better Men, where me, you, Gene, and Jimmy have a conversation about where does the black man lie his head. Does the
Right.
black man, in his own neighborhood, does he help reinvent it and help the wheel, or does he go about, trying to better himself in a suburban neighborhood or something of that nature, right?
Right.
Um, I thought that's kind of interesting because I wanted to share this last thing with you before we close out. I was at my guy's house the other day, Gustav, Mr. Gustav,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
he had a good friend of his come over with his son, and his son was 19 years old. His son was 19 years old, and the kid had a yeah. So we're kind of shifting gears with the topic a little bit.
Hmm.
19 years old, and so Gustav and I, as educators, we were kind of trying to give him some advice, whatever, whatnot. The dad said the reason why he came over there with his son was because his son was 19, just graduated from college, and he had just registered to Clark Atlanta University, HBCU, down in
Right.
Atlanta. Taking 6 classes. I think he was a business major, taking business, intro to business, intro to business law, accounting, English composition, music theory, and a whole bunch of these other classes, like about 5, 6 classes. And he told his dad, "Dad, I don't know if I could do this. Like, this is really hard, and I don't know if I have the wherewithal to focus. I'm just trying to get money and do all this other stuff." And
Hmm.
the dad was like, "Yeah, well, mind you, his dad was Haitian. And I thought his dad would be like, well, I thought his dad came to bring him over to prove how important education was and
Right.
scold him. But he was like, look, his mom wants him to go to school, his aunts want him to go to school, but he's telling me he's not ready. Why should I go out of pocket and spend 50 grand a year if this young
Yeah.
man doesn't feel comfortable, with his education right now because he feels as if mentally he's not there and he's ready to tackle it. So I asked the kid, I said, um, what are some things you're currently interested in doing right now? He said, well, I love to work. He said, I'll work, 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 work. I was like, do you want to do a trade or a vocational school? He said, nah, I don't. I said, okay, cool. I said, well, community college is always an option if you want to. It's light, you don't have to do much in terms of like the type of amount of work you can do. But I said, why don't you just take a gap year or take 2 years off and just work, 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 and just kind of figure out, what are some things you're interested in and build some tangible skills. I said, what do you like doing outside of work? He's like, honestly, I just like to chill and play 2K, man. That's my life, bro. I said, well, you
Hmm.
know what? If that's your life, bro, college is not for you right now. Because I guarantee you, if you're into college, you're going to have to put all that 2K away, all that stuff away. And if you're not willing to pull that all away and you're spending 50, 60 grand of daddy's money a year, you're wasting his time and your time and his
Yeah.
money. So don't, you know. But it's interesting because the reason why I bring that up is because on that episode, we talk about the lack of relevance for college, and we talk about how it kind of can conflict us in terms of getting us to where we need to be. And it's kind of ironic that I say that because I'm in my suit and I just came out of class.
Right.
But Gene on that episode, I was just listening to it. I know it didn't come out yet, but Gene was actually saying on that episode, he said, college is for students or for people that come from backgrounds where they are given guaranteed outcomes. What are your thoughts on that? And with this kid in general, I know you don't really know much about his story, but his dad literally went over there and said, "Look, like, I know my son's smart, but if he's saying that he's not ready for college right now and he's mentally not there, why should I have to go out of pocket 50, 60K a year? Because his mom is putting that pressure on him to be the first ever in the family to get a degree." And I know
Right.
there's something that you all talk about. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's on the right track. And his father, when it comes to, just it's better to just save the money than burn it, because right now the college degree doesn't hold the value it once did. So it doesn't matter what type of record you're trying to break with your family, where you want to be the first in your family to get this or that. That record doesn't do anything for his financial future. You know what I'm saying? That's just for you to feel good. But I think we have to kind of break out of that. Like, I need to be the first in my family to get a degree. I mean, be the first in your family to be a millionaire, not a degree, because that degree it's not guaranteed to do anything for you. So I'd like you said, I mean, it's best to go into a different direction if you're not going to put your all into it, because it is for people that success. Like, the degree is the key to the door that they're trying to get into. But if you don't even know where you want to go, that key is not going to work. It's useless.
My
So we just got to kind of break out of that, like that the whole you have to go to college thing. This is great for you, blah blah blah. Because if you don't want to be in college and you don't know what you're going to do with the degree, that degree might be the worst thing that ever happened to you.
my brother, this kid had no. When I say no, and I say this respectfully to help him, this kid had no direction, bro.
Yeah,
No direction whatsoever. And it sucks because it goes back to what you say, like about consulting. Like I haven't gotten to where I wanted to get to in life. So who am I, or who would I be to consult him on the
right,
benefits and the degree when I, at this current age of 29, am still not where I want to be, and still in some ways still figuring out myself, you know.
right,
And I think, and I want to close out the show on this turn. I really want to praise that man, praise his father for having the wherewithal to say, look, I'm a mechanic. I'm a car mechanic. I'm an auto mechanic and a technician. Like I
right,
use my hand. I'm smart in that way. I use my hands. And I use my hands to conduct manual labor in order to service and to take care of my family. But just because I didn't go to college, it doesn't make me any less smart or qualified than my son or
right.
whoever, to, you know, to show how smart I am. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Hello. So I think it's just I think I know, and I know like I will receive backlash for saying something like this, but I think we need to praise fathers or parents in general, whether mom or dad, who has that sense of mind or wherewithal to understand their children and to say, well, I'm not going to put them through this and put myself through this if they're not ready, and
Right,
this won't be a because I can't even afford it. It's so crazy. Just imagine too, as the parent, you probably worked your way into debt and to get out of debt in order to provide for your family. Now to have to put yourself back into debt in order to ensure that your child gets an education that he might drop halfway through. He might
right.
drop out halfway complete it, you know?
It's true, 100%. I mean, he's making the best financial decision. I mean,
You know,
why did where you say
you know what's crazy though?
what?
If mom ever finds out that her spouse said that, she's gonna be livid with him.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true, man. It's a shame that we hold the degree to such a high just such a high place in our lives. Like it's a huge accomplishment. But in reality,
Right.
we need to be focused on real wealth, not paper accomplishments because you're gonna die with that degree. You can't pass that down. So if you're just doing it just so mommy can be happy, you're ruining your life.
Yeah, I agree. You want to read the comment from
Yeah,
your
sure.
girl?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, she says, I don't know, but I think lots of people think a college degree equals intelligence, which is not necessarily true. Plus, it's a lot of pressure when you're a first gen to go to college or even have the opportunity for it. It's true. You know, a lot of people do think that the degree equals intelligence. And, when you meet someone, they may ask you, what college you went to, just to quickly, determine, where you are in life or how smart you are. But in reality, you know, a college degree basically just means you completed a curriculum and you have the ability to memorize a lot of information at once. And that doesn't equal intelligence or problem solving at all. So I believe that it makes no sense for these parents to pressure their children to go to college just because they didn't go to college. Just like it just doesn't work that way. I mean, it's not going to be the savior for everybody. College has ruined a lot of lives and it's made a lot of lives better, but it's ruined a lot, especially with the student loan issue. So I really don't believe the college degree is what our parents believe it is. But most of the
Yeah,
time, people that have never done something will always have the wrong, perception of it, the wrong understanding of it. So it's really true. It's so true.
right. And then
Yes, yes, that's another great one. How people look down on community college students and Uplift University. Yeah, it's insane. But at the end of the day, isn't that marketing? That's great marketing. it's if you push the notion that you're a loser if you go to community college, but if you go 40, 50 grand in debt for a university, you're on top of the world. You know what I mean? Like, man, I wish I had a product that I could, just make people feel like they need it. You know what I'm saying? You're not, it's crazy, man.
You know what's
Because,
so crazy?
yep,
It's so funny that she says that. And shout out to you, your girl NT Sar. Because I felt like, I mean, this is prior to I met you, Mark, even though we met in community college. I felt like a loser when I transferred from Long Island University to Queensborough my first semester. And I talked about this on a prior podcast episode, but like, I felt like total utter crap. I was like, man, like, what's going on with me? Like, why am
yeah,
I am a slug. But you know what's so crazy? I mean, education is not for everybody. Luckily enough for me, even though we're talking about it and talking about the irrelevance of it at times, I was fortunate enough to have parents or a family that just, just distressed it and beat me to death with it in my ear. So it, and I just liked it. I actually enjoyed it. I liked it, and I didn't have to go out of pocket for my financial aid. So I took advantage of it, brother. I'm not gonna lie,
right,
not to go out of pocket for my 4 year degree. So I got my associates, and then I went on to get my bachelor's, and then after that I went on to get my master's, which I actually went out of pocket for, but I'm halfway with clearing that debt. But it's interesting because it's like I was in community college, but I'm one of the most intelligent brothers I know.
right,
There are
right.
people in community, there are people in 4 year degrees, 4 year schools. They can't fuck with me intellectually because, like, I know,
It's
like,
true.
I put the time in, and my parents put the time in from when I was young. But I think society in itself, going back to what your girl NC Star says, has a way with marketing and with just spinning narratives that if you go to a 2 year school or even a prep school, you are beneath the upper echelon of class of the society
Yeah.
that goes to 4 year schools. And a lot of the times too, brother, sometimes those people who are at 4 year schools has a 1.5, 2.0 GPAs. They're just there to party. They're barely making it. It doesn't
Uh,
mean bit honest.
I'll be honest with you, bro. University graduates are some of the dumbest people I've ever met, man. I'm sorry.
You said
Like,
it's the what?
some of the dumbest people I've ever met were university graduates. Just like where I'm just like dumbfounded at just the lack of intelligence and just how low their IQ is and their problem solving abilities. It's really like, wow, you are a product of this system where they just
Yeah.
pump out the same person over and over and over.
No
They
individuality, no innovation.
yes, exactly. Their perspective is just it's just it's so it's just a reflection of the masses. Just a reflection of what they taught you in school to do and what the masses believe is the right way to do things. And it's crazy, man, because I always like to say you should never fall in love with your investment. And they love their degrees so much, man. It can do no wrong. It's gonna get them to the top no matter what. They won't even believe that they've been screwed if you laid it all out to them in a beautiful presentation. Like they would never understand. But it's because they put so much time and money into it. If they did digest the fact that they blew that money, it would eat them up inside, man. They would be destroyed.
It's true. It's true. Dane Dash was actually talking about it in a recent interview. Not the one I sent you, but another one I was
Okay.
watching the past week. He was saying that his daughter, he wanted her to take after him and work for his business and literally
Right.
intern there for 2 years as a paid intern and learn the ins and outs of the business. And even if she didn't want to go to his industry, she could take what she learned from there and transfer that into the fashion industry because she wanted to do fashion. And him being Dane
Right.
Dash, he obviously has connections to the fashion industry and he thought that that would be great for her. But her mom was like, "No, you need to be a doctor. You need to be a doctor." And her mom stressed that school was important to the point where the girls is like, "No, like mom says I have to get my degree." And he's like, "Don't you know I have a whole opportunity right here waiting for you? I understand you
Right.
want to get this degree, but I'm Dame Dash. I already created wealth for you. All you have to do now is take that wealth and turn it into a second generation of wealth." He was like, most of our millionaires, think about it. Most of our millionaires that we have right now, they're first generational wealth. He was talking African Americans. And I was like, damn, man, he's right.
Right.
He's right. Like we have only just started. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have that opportunity and that leverage, I really don't know what's the purpose of school unless they really had a passion for becoming a doctor or a lawyer or an
Right.
engineer. If that was true, some but and even then, I think there's ways around that even. So
It's true.
last thing before I let you go, because I see we have about 7, 8 minutes left. the Google certificates, man. Google has started their recent certification program. How do you think
Right.
that's going to change the outlook of the job economy over the next few years or so?
I think that's going to be interesting. That shift away from an irrelevant curriculum, a curriculum that's irrelevant to your major, to a strict, rigorous, short-term program that gives you everything you need for your desired field. I mean, what is the reason for all of that fluff anyway? And I think Google recognized that. And they're just going to give you the skills you need and prepare you for that job, other than waste your time in classes that make no sense. So I think it's going to bring the cost down significantly of just education, and just the amount of time needed. It shouldn't take you, 4 years to get a bachelor's in history, because like when I remember looking at the curriculum, it's like 30 to 40% of it is actually about your major, and the rest is like irrelevant stuff that you don't even really need for that field. So I think Google's right on the money, and hopefully, you know, industries recognize that certificate and put value behind it, because as we know, the market determines, what it's worth. So
Right.
hopefully, the market does see value in it, but these universities have so much power, they'll probably invest in marketing to deter them from a certificate like that and make them feel like you need to come to our institution. It's
Yeah.
really ridiculous, man. It makes no sense that you can go to school for business and I have to take a history class. Like, what the hell does that even? That's not even relevant, man. It's ridiculous, man. It's a waste of time.
You know what it is, brother? It's a threat. It's a threat to their whole entire ecosystem,
Yeah,
an ecosystem that existed for centuries at this point, two, 300
right.
years. And you don't have that threat, because that threat will cause them to go extinct and go out of business. Oh, they can't have that.
They need to
But
be gone, man. All of them.
agreed, agreed,
Yeah.
agreed, agreed. Which means that I will be out of a job here at this
Oh
place.
no, we
But
don't.
as you but no, no, no. But catch me. By that time, hopefully, the Kev 11 Flower Concrete brand will be well established. Which is to say, I
Absolutely.
don't need this ecosystem to thrive, because I have a whole bunch of other things, skills,
Exactly.
and assets I could use. Um, if this works, though, if this works, and I do believe that there's a fighting chance, I think it will cause a trend where many other programs, and maybe even colleges too, might try to develop their own certificate programs,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
jobs like General Electrics, or what's the GE, or even the motor company in Detroit. I forget the name, but yeah, I feel as if it'll start a trend and it'll just keep going. Whether it's Google, whether it's Hewlett Packard, or Staples, or whoever. I mean, you name the brand.
Right. And I think you're right. I think that these companies want to attract the best talent. Why not develop programs in schools that allow them to hand pick the individuals that they want, instead of trying to recruit them from certain universities? Have everything in house so you can maintain, a farm for talent.
Absolutely.
But like you said, they people are loyal to the institutions that their families have been going to for generations.
Absolutely.
It says we've got about a minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, cool.
Yep,
With that being, that was really it though. I think that was a perfect segue towards the ending.
definitely.
So for those of you who are on here right now, or who were on here, you can catch this live. Hopefully, if Mark does decide to post it up, and leave it there on the IGTV, you can catch it there. Our next few episodes talks about this, about building generational wealth, and having to combat that with having to go about working our way through college as Black people, and working our way through finding ourselves in a way in which we will thrive as a community. So with that being said, tomorrow's episode 32, is A Boy's Redemption. And the next few episodes to follow continues to build this critical perspective on self as African Americans. And we appreciate you. Anything else you have left to say, Mark?
No, man, awesome conversation. And like you said, that episode kind of ties right into this. So I think they'll definitely enjoy it. A lot of great gems in that one. So I'm looking forward to it dropping, man.
Absolutely. My brother, always a pleasure talking to you. I'll see you on the
Most
next Wise
definitely.
Guys Live.
Sounds great, man. Stay wise.
Take care.